There exist certain individuals who vibrate at an elevated frequency, and they demonstrate three distinct, undeniable manifestations that bear no relation whatsoever to the recitation of superficial affirmations or participation in simple spiritual practices. These specific indicators are not qualities one can acquire through sheer force of will or by attending a temporary restorative gathering. They are energetic realities, observable effects that commence their propagation through your physical organism and your external existence. When the architecture of your inner world attains a condition of profound coherence, the effect is akin to having finally calibrated your personal instrument to its ideal pitch, compelling the very symphony of reality to align itself with your fundamental tone. The focus of our subsequent examination is the practical, empirically accessible proof of the principles I have devoted my scholarship to comprehending. The tangible alterations that materialize when an individual achieves genuine psychic integration. These three indicators are not abstract mystical symbols. They constitute tangible, nearly scientific phenomena that become apparent within your daily experience. You shall now be instructed on how to recognize them, grasp their etiology, and perceive what they disclose concerning the constitution of your soul. For to function from a position of high vibration is not an act staged for an unseen audience. It is, rather, the pure, unmediated consequence of radical inner honesty. It is possible you have already encountered these alterations, perhaps dismissing them as peculiar fortune or even a signal that some disorder was present. You might have perceived a fundamental alteration within your being, a shift you were unable to precisely define. This discourse serves as your lexicon. This is the thorough psychological analysis of an authentic vibrational signature, and it clarifies precisely why these three phenomena shall never be reduced to a common enumeration of pleasant maxims. They possess too much potency, are too self-evident, and present far too great an obstacle to be utilized in the machinations of the spiritual ego. The first sign is somatic, and its declaration is brutally direct. Sign 1. The body's physiological rejection. Your physical organism becomes an unwavering polygraph for your soul. It initiates a physical expulsion of anything that stands in discord with your core truth. This is not merely a vague sensation of being unwell. It is a swift and undeniable physiological response to inner dissonance. It could manifest as a sudden, incapacitating migraine that appears the moment you consent to an undertaking that betrays your core principles. It might be a wave of debilitating nausea that washes over you just as you are about to pronounce a yes when every cell in your body is crying no. Or perhaps it is a profound, bone-deep exhaustion that is medically unexplainable, emerging solely when you spend time in settings or with individuals who necessitate you adopting a mask. These are not the typical manifestations of psychosomatic symptoms, which frequently represent the desperate cries of unaddressed trauma. This is a state far more advanced. This is your body's innate somatic intelligence becoming fully operational. I understood that through profound psychic integration, the core self-commissions your body to act as the ultimate guardian of your authenticity. Your physical form thus becomes a resonant chamber for your frequency, and it will no longer endure incongruity. For an individual who has attained high integration, persistence in a career that demands utter conformity, or a relationship that necessitates the abandonment of the self, triggers genuine physical distress. Your body ceases to react simply to stress. It commences reaction against frequency betrayal. Have you ever experienced such a sensation? That instant you attempt to force your way through a situation out of obligation, fear, or guilt, and your body simply shuts down. It is as if your immune system initiates a deliberate protest before your conscious intellect can even commence rationalizing the compromise. This is the phenomenon of physiological rejection. Your energetic signature has become so finely tuned that it is no longer capable of metabolizing inauthenticity. The distinction here is critical. Neurosis finds expression in the body due to internal fragmentation and conflict. Vibrational somatic intelligence, conversely, originates from integration. It springs from a bond between psyche and body, so absolute that your biological organism actively defends your truth. It assumes the role of the physical enforcer of your inner coherence. When that coherence is jeopardized, the alarm is sounded instantly. Those who exhibit this sign discover they can no longer articulate even a minor falsehood without a constriction in their throat. They find themselves incapable of remaining in gatherings where dishonesty is the prevalent currency without feeling physically indisposed. Their body actively compels them toward truth. It is no longer merely a moral inclination. It has transitioned into a biological imperative. Your organism has recognized that betraying your frequency generates a static interference that destabilizes the entire system, and it shields against that corruption with pain, with exhaustion, with whatever means necessary to prevent you from diverging further from your true self. If you have ever been forced to resign from a post because your body was mysteriously disintegrating, or terminate a relationship because you felt unwell every time you were in that person's presence, that was not an indication of your fragility. That was a demonstration of your power. It was your frequency actively defending its intrinsic integrity. That is the first sign, and its reality is as concrete as the earth beneath your feet. Sign 2, density and precision of synchronicity. The second sign is even more profoundly disquieting because it completely dissolves the established boundary between your mind and the material domain. You begin to experience synchronicity with a density and exactitude that defies all statistical probability and rational explanation. You are no longer merely encountering a strange coincidence on occasion. You are dwelling within a constant, flowing dialogue with reality. You might be contemplating a highly specific, specialized inquiry in your mind, and the next person speaking in the establishment behind you utters the precise key phrase you were focusing on. You recall a fleeting memory of a childhood companion you have not encountered in 2 decades, and you suddenly meet their sibling in an entirely different country the following day. You are grappling with a complex decision, and a motorized carriage drives past bearing a company slogan on its side that functions as a direct, almost humorously blunt piece of counsel. This occurrence is not singular. It transpires daily. It becomes the new texture of your existence. I theorized that for the psychically aligned individual, the acausal connecting principle that links the psyche and reality becomes intensely magnified. This is not baseless optimism or arcane superstition. It is a documented phenomenon that occurs when your consciousness achieves such a degree of integration that the artifice of separation between what is within and what is without begins to crumble. The universe surrounding you ceases its function as a random backdrop and starts operating as a direct, real-time feedback system for your inner condition. You are no longer solely an observer of occurrences. You are involved in a conscious partnership with them. The expanse of your awareness, the collective unconscious, and physical reality itself begin to interweave into a single unified tapestry. This marks the point where synchronicity advances from being an unusual novelty to becoming your native language. You can no longer dismiss it. You can no longer logically attribute it to mere chance. And you are therefore compelled to accept the weighty responsibility that you are actively participating in the creation of your reality. And this state is profoundly uncomfortable. To live in a condition of perpetual synchronicity is a demanding burden to carry because you are no longer able to drift through life passively. Because every passing notion, every subtle shift in emotion appears to elicit an immediate external echo. Because you sense the universe listening and responding to your silent intentions, your most profound anxieties, your unarticulated questions, you become a conscious co-creator, irrespective of whether you intended to take on this role. And this implies you can no longer conceal yourself. You can no longer adopt the stance of the victim. You can no longer pretend that you are without influence. For the integrated person, these synchronicities are not simply pleasant acknowledgments from the cosmos. They serve as evidence that you are operating on a frequency where your accountability for what manifests in your life has been drastically elevated. Every encounter, every random event, every turn of fortune transforms into a message, a symbol, an answer to something stirring deep within your being. This is the second sign, and once it commences, it never releases its hold upon you. Sign 3, spontaneous polarization in others. The third sign expresses itself through the manner in which the world regards you, specifically in the reactions of other individuals. Complete strangers, in particular, will exhibit powerful, immediate, and often baffling responses to your presence. This is the phenomenon I term spontaneous polarization. You may enter a gathering and, without uttering a single word, some individuals will treat you with an immediate, unfounded hostility. Their gaze will be cold, their body language constrained, their energy radiating utter rejection, even though they possess no prior knowledge of you. Conversely, others will approach you with an astonishing degree of warmth and trust. They will readily confide in you, sharing profoundly personal narratives within moments of meeting you, as if they have been intimately acquainted with you throughout their entire lives. You have performed no action to earn either response. Your mere presence acts as the catalyst. I observed that psychologically integrated individuals function as an unconscious trigger for the unintegrated components within others. Your presence becomes an unblemished screen onto which they project their own inner world. When an individual experiences a sudden rush of antipathy toward you, they are not actually despising you. They are reacting violently to that part of themselves, their own untapped potential, their own luminosity, their own suppressed truth that your authentic presence silently reflects back to them. And when another individual experiences an instantaneous feeling of safety or deep admiration, they are recognizing in you a quality they deeply desire but have not yet granted themselves permission to embody. You execute no action. You simply exist. And that is sufficient to agitate the waters. Individuals possessing a highly defined psychic frequency seldom traverse the world unnoticed. Their energetic signature is too distinct, too lucid. It elicits visceral responses because it wordlessly brings to light the internal dissonance residing in others. If you observe that people are either intensely attracted to you or strongly repelled by you, often before any verbal exchange has occurred, this is not a condemnation of your character. It is a testament to the clarity of your frequency. It will either resonate harmonically or create uncomfortable discord, leaving very little space for neutrality. The crucial query is, how does one differentiate this genuine psychic effect from mere attention-seeking conduct? The distinction resides in your intention. If you are consciously or unconsciously performing, adopting a fabricated persona to elicit a reaction, then the response you receive is merely a product of your own neediness. But if you are simply existing, anchored in your own quiet truth, and the reactions surface regardless, that is the undeniable effect of your frequency. An authentic presence requires no dramatization. It simply is, and the world is compelled to react to it. This third sign also signifies that you are no longer capable of concealing yourself within the multitude. Your endeavors to remain unnoticed will invariably fail. People sense your energy before they register your voice. They are reacting to something within you that transcends the limitations of language. This is not vanity. It is the simple physics of a frequency that can no longer be disguised, the consequence of individuation. Therefore, what do these three signs, the intelligent body, the responsive universe, and the polarizing presence, reveal regarding your progression toward individuation? I never conceived of individuation as a journey toward flawlessness, but rather as a path toward coherence. A high vibration does not elevate you to sainthood, it renders you singular. It implies that you have finally assimilated your own internal contradictions. You have confronted your shadows and acknowledged them not as adversaries to be vanquished, but as estranged components of your own soul, deserving of welcome. This state of profound inner unity, where your ego your unconscious, and your core self engage in continuous open discourse generates an energetic signature so coherent that the material world is obligated to correspond to it. Individuals who vibrate at this level are not necessarily spiritually enlightened or entirely free from doubt, but they have achieved a state of psychological integrity. The internal conflict within them has ceased. They have embraced their inconsistencies. They no longer dwell in a condition of internal division. And this unity fundamentally alters the nature of their interaction with the energetic field that encompasses them. There exists a direct causal correlation between individuation and physical manifestation. When you possess the courage to fully embody who you truly are, when you integrate your polarities with absolute honesty, you emit a frequency so specific that the world is forced to take cognizance. Your body begins to enforce your truth. Reality commences mirroring your inner movements, and other people become aware of the resonance of your presence. These are the concrete, observable outcomes of psychological wholeness. However, the cost of this clarity is immense. You forfeit the capacity to assimilate. You can no longer feign being someone you are not for the sake of social comfort. Your frequency is too precisely defined, and it broadcasts your truth wherever you proceed. This can be a solitary path. It can lead to isolation, because not all individuals are equipped to handle this level of clarity. Not everyone is prepared to face what you inadvertently reflect back to them. And these signs are not accolades earned through superficial spiritual practices. They emerge organically from the courageous, demanding process of confronting your own internal chaos and actively choosing to become whole. The peril of psychic inflation. And precisely here, at the threshold of this emergent reality, lies a deceptive hazard, more precarious than any shadow you have yet faced. It is the trap of the spiritual ego. It is the temptation to observe these signs and mistakenly interpret them as proof of your own innate superiority. It is the subtle venom that induces the feeling of being divinely chosen, exceptional, or more advanced than others. This is not high integration. In my terminology, this is psychic inflation, and it stands as the direct antithesis of genuine integration. I warned against it vehemently. When your interaction with these profound energetic phenomena cultivates arrogance instead of profound humility, you have not achieved wholeness. You have merely become distended. How does one determine if they are operating from a foundation of authentic frequency or simply nourishing their ego with a new, more refined type of fuel? Pose yourself this solitary, straightforward inquiry. Do you employ these experiences to feel separate from and superior to other individuals? Do you find yourself compulsively discussing the extent of your difference, the profound nature of your connection? Are you dependent on external validation for your spiritual advancement? If these statements hold true, you are not operating in a state of high coherence. You are ensnared in the web of spiritual narcissism. Authentic maturity is characterized by its quietude. Truly integrated individuals do not convene public announcements regarding their synchronicities. They simply live them. They possess no requirement for external confirmation of their inner condition. They understand that their frequency is demonstrated through its demonstrable effects, not through their articulation of a narrative about it. If you experience a compulsive necessity to validate that you are vibrationally advanced, the reality is that you are not. Genuine power requires no advertisement. The distinction is subtle yet absolute. Do these signs awaken in you a sense of profound humility before the intrinsic mystery of existence? Or do they foster a sense of superiority over your fellow man? Your truthful response reveals the precise nature of your current standing. Psychic inflation is the termination of genuine frequency. It occurs when you mistakenly identify yourself with the archetypal energies that move through you, overlooking the fact that you function as the vessel, not the source. You are the lens, not the light itself. As I demonstrated, this constitutes the primary hazard of any path leading toward the self. The moment you begin to believe that you are the power you are wielding, you have severed your link to the self and regressed into the grasp of the ego. Only this time, it is an ego ornamented with spiritual trophies, no less fragmented, merely more effectively disguised. True maturity manifests itself in simplicity, in the capacity to experience these phenomena without the perpetual need to analyze them, categorize them, or use them as evidence of anything external whatsoever. You simply dwell within them. Your body protects your truth. Reality reflects your soul. People react to your presence. This merely becomes your new normal, not a spiritual milestone, not a mystical curiosity. It is simply the physics governing how you now interact with the world ever since you ceased the battle against yourself. There arrives a specific moment in the process of individuation where a fundamental transformation takes place. You discontinue the search for external confirmation. You cease the attempt to interpret every sign. You stop accumulating proof of your own evolution. You come to the realization that a high vibration has no need to be named, validated, or understood by anyone beyond yourself. It simply materializes as the undeniable, concrete texture of your life, and that realization is complete. I might have designated this the ultimate return to the self, subsequent to the extensive journey through the shadows, following the integration of opposites. After diligently working through the fragments of the psyche, you arrive back at your point of origin. However, you are no longer the same person. You return as an individual who can inhabit their own frequency without the compulsion for ceaseless self-analysis. You live your vibrational quality without consciously intellectualizing it. It has finally simply become who you are. In this concluding phase, the quest for spiritual explanations concludes. The synchronicities lose their mystical enchantment. They are understood simply as the established means by which the world communicates. Your body's rejection of falsehood becomes the norm. The projections emanating from others are anticipated. You no longer require a spiritual framework to assign meaning to it. You are simply living it. This is the hallmark of true integration. When the signs cease being mere signs and transition into your intrinsic reality, the deepest maturity is discovered when you are no longer endeavoring to be spiritual. You are no longer striving to be conscious. You are no longer attempting to appear vibrationally elevated. You simply are, because there remains no alternative mode of being for you. Your internal coherence has rendered your frequency